also, I think, yes, what I was saying, there was a linkage in the lineage lessons with this perfectionism. Like, you, out of survival, you had to be inevitably like on guard, perfect. Like, if I mess up here, I'm doing bills at 7, 8, and I think that also ended up going into like your children, inevitably, this idea of just like being perfect. Like the way that we speak, Dee, my grandmother, is also very like classically, I don't even know why she's like that, so maybe we need to get her on episode of just being like, that's how people talk. Like, she still talks like this to this day.
My mother's
I don't know if
mother.
She said her mom is light skinned. Like, was it racist? Like, what's happening?
My mother's mother came from the South.
Okay.
From in Houston, and worked very hard to rid herself of her accent when she came here. Right? There's a Southern
assimilation,
accent,
if you will.
Okay. The accent denotes for white folks a sense of lack of intelligence. Period. Dot. I mean, we can say it doesn't, but when you hear a Southern accent, there you go. You're all listening to that Southern accent in your head. That Southern accent has a connotation of somehow less than. When you mix that with race and gender, it's over for you. So as my grandmother, being extremely fair, as we've talked about, she worked
to pass.
She worked really hard to be accepted. I'm gonna use that language. And then by the time my mom came, right, Mom went to college at a time when very few Black people were going to college, and definitely nobody blind.
Yeah.
So what Mom did was like, I need to make sure that I am as close to perfect as possible, because they're already going to question me. I'm Black, I'm a woman, I'm blind, going to college.
With a kid.
With a child.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But she was like, I won't be anything.
They didn't have trauma studies back when she was
right
in her,
yeah.
Trauma.
Because she was like, I won't be anything without this bachelor's degree. Because I remember I remember my granddaddy being like, you ain't got to do it. And she was like, I must get this bachelor's degree. And for her, that was a symbol. So by the time I came...
Oh my God, this makes so much sense.
Yes. So by the time I came along...
I'm sorry.
You're making the lineage lessons?
I just have to remember, y'all, when I went to transfer schools during the pandemic. Whole time, the world is in flames. If you're from the Bay, the sky was literally red. We couldn't go nowhere. They were telling y'all people was dying. Get vaccinated. You're not getting vaccinated, your grandma gonna die. All of this, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, I want to still do school, but getting up at 6 a.m. because I'm on a different time zone is kind of crazy, and paying $1 million to go to school online is kind of wild. I'm thinking no for me. Dorothy Rogers was on my... She was pissed, because to them that sounded like, I'm quitting, I'm not going to do school. And I was just like, I need to quit where I'm at right now. I'm going to figure it out. But she was freaking out. And when you said yes, that is a direct lineage lesson. That piece of paper was worth my life and my weight in gold, because I was just like, damn, like, the sky is on fire. Like, worst case scenario, if I don't get this paper, it is what it is. But obviously, blind grandmother going to college, single mom, okay, that makes sense. And then doctoral degree and another degree and another, and it's always more to do to be excellent, and that makes so much sense. And I'm trying to break the curse, y'all, but I'm not doing that well. So it's like, I still got my degree, and I'm probably gonna get more stuff. So it's a generational cycle, if you will, that's gonna get us paid. I learned to accept it at this point.
It's rooted in white supremacy.
Yes,
and
it is.
And you have to decide which part of the game you're gonna play. You feel me? So in education, now if I had been in something else, maybe if I was in computer sciences, or if I was in the health arena, right? As a nurse, once you get that BSN, you don't need to do anything else, because you know you got a job forever. But in education, where it's deeply, deeply mired in this notion of have-nots and whiteness, you're almost like, you get a bachelor's degree and you start teaching, and then they look at you and go, so, what else you go do, right? And so it's not seen as enough if you want to climb that ladder. And every Black woman I know who has said, I want to be a principal, or I want to be dare they say, a superintendent, there's no way around it for Black women. And so that was the field I was in.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm also in that field. But that's because, like, y'all, I promise you, I did my whole little ayahuasca ceremony. I went on my whole healing journey. I came back and I was like, I'm not teaching no more. Nowhere wanted to hire me. I was overqualified. I was like, I just want to work at a cafe like a normal person.
Remember you were like, I just want to work at a cafe.
Literally, I'm just like, bro, like, I'm tired of this.
It's your purpose. You was running from your purpose.
Sure. Teaching is not my purpose.
Well,
not in
working
the
with young
school
people.
district.
Well,
yes.
right. And there's a variety of ways that you can be an educator.
Transformative, creating, like, there's other words, but when we think about this classroom day to day as absolutely not. And I think,
and it doesn't have to be that.
And it's a trap in a way that there is no actual matriculation. Like, the teachers that I had in high school are still teaching there. And they BS you with this, like, oh, you climb the step ladder and, like, each year you get paid a little bit more, but you're really never really going anywhere. You're teaching the same curriculum.
But that's their choice.
And don't get me wrong, but when you're, so for example, people that are not in the education field, I was explaining to a friend of mine, I told him, I said, I'm teaching right now, but I'm also thinking about going back to school. I'm not talking to many people about this. This is, like a secret, if you will.
And that's why we're telling millions of people.
Well, that's why I said I'm thinking about going back to school. So it's a ponder, if you will.
I love it.
And where we landed was that I was explaining to him, I was like, well, once I start teaching, I have my bachelor's, but I also need to go get a teaching credential to officially teach. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, but I'm still going to make the same money. Mm-hmm. When I get my teaching credential. Mm-hmm. I don't make more money until I get my master's degree.
Correct.
And I was like, but why would I teach if I have my master's degree? Wouldn't I go be a program manager? Yes. Wouldn't I go do something else?
Absolutely.
Right? And so the higher ups are encouraging me to get my teaching credential. But that doesn't do anything for me outside of the classroom.
Correct.
I will just be able to teach in the classroom for
Correct.
However long it benefits the system in which I'm in.
Correct.
But when I was talking to a teacher coach of mine who is also a former colleague, which the world is that small, but her name is Kahinde. I'll name drop.
Yeah, she was my student.
Miss Salter is absolutely wonderful.
Because they were at the Young Musicians Program. We talked about that in the last.
Okay, perfect, mm-hmm. Right? And so she just had a conversation with me and she was like, I genuinely want you to do what's best for your journey.
Yeah.
Like and I had a meeting with my principal and he was like, so you're going to teach here? Like, you're going to get your credential? And I was like, oh, well, Kahinde told me that if I would like to get a CTE credential.
That's the way to go?
That's the way to go because it's less expensive and Absolutely. It's like all of these things. And he was like, no, I think you should get this credential. And I told him, I was like, yeah, but you're trying to get me to teach here. That is your... So, and again, that's what I mean. It's a trap. It's like, depending upon who you're talking to, the goal is that these kids are servicing the classroom, not my livelihood, not my progression, not my purpose, if you will. And I think my purpose is greater than the classroom. However, i.e. Lineage lessons, because she's not in the classroom anymore. She's still a teacher. She's still a leader. And she was she was never going to be in the classroom forever. But I think that's a part of where I'm realizing the purpose is like the expansion. And that goes into like me and my mother's work and like knowing that we have the same calling and it's going to look different, but it still needs to be from the place of like, we are led to guide people. We are led to be informants. We are led to like bring information, knowledge, bearing, and all of these esoteric way to put it, but essentially teaching.
Or essentially being an educator. I think when I misspoke when I said your purpose is to teach. Our purpose is to educate, and I know my purpose is to grow people, and I know you've been talking about your purpose is to heal. So that has looked very, very different in a variety of places. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That's a whole episode.
Okay.
Oh my God. Right. No, you can, but that's a whole episode. Like,
yeah. It's not always the classroom. It's definitely, with Black women, all the work I've been doing with that, leaders. It's not always the classroom. To your point, though, a CTE credential is easier, and I have one. And so you go get that, and you do what you got to do until you move to the next thing. The people who are teaching forever, I mean, I know some teachers, many of whom you had Sarah B. and others. I think they teach forever because they want to teach forever. She definitely has a master's degree. I mean, so it's like some people really, really, really like the classroom. And that's beautiful for them.
I think people like stability too, though. I think there's a certain aspect of knowing you're going to go somewhere every day.
Jesus.
And you're going to work.
That sounds horrible.
For some people, that is their bread and butter, so they can be adventurous and spontaneous outside of that space.
That's true.
I have come to understand.
No, that's not me.
That's not my thing. I think that is an aspect of, I want to build stability within myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's coming up a lot because, well, that's something me and you will talk about offline and just like, Julian and working everything. But
what I will say is you think about Ben's most impactful teacher, Zach Pittsmith, right, whom he met at Brewer.
He has been teaching there
Forever. But he's a musician. And his impact on Ben's life, unmeasurable, right?
For sure.
I feel like there are just some folk who are supposed to do that in whatever ways that looks for them.
You're right. I think I just don't get it.
Yeah. It's just not for you. And
it's fire though. It's cute.
It's so funny.
No, it is. Like, I think it's I think someone needs to do it. But I think that everyone needs to find what works for them. Because
I agree.
To your point, some people's hearts are fulfilled from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's people. I know someone that, like, the last school I subbed at, she was teaching there for like 60 years.
Crazy.
And it gets her there. Rosemary has been at Tech for like 45 years. Sherman has been there for 60 years. There's a multitude of examples. Let's put it this way. For
also,
lineage lessons, that is not us.
Right, it's not us. Also, I was going to say, there's an age thing. When you start talking about 60 years, 40 years, whatever, there was a time, right, where you were told, go to school, get your degree, get your whatever, and then go teach till you retire. That was, and it was not just teaching. It was like,
do whatever job to
until you retire. And then you retire with great benefits and you can have your whole life. So that was sort of a difference.
That's true.
You need not do that anymore. Right. Also, people aren't offering retirement packages. I was on a call and somebody was like, so you have a pension? I was like, I worked for Oakland Unified School District. So I have a pension waiting for me. They're not offering up those types of bennies at many of these programs anymore. So you need not also be loyal to
job loyalty.
Yeah, because they're not offering that. But if you knew if you worked 30 years, you was going to get paid for the rest of your life, that for many people, to your point around stability, was big. And for those folks are like my grandmother's age or maybe the generation right above me, the notion of having that type of stability when you buy a house and you've got children and you can work and at the end they're going to pay your salary.
I think capitalism is just,
well, okay, then there's that.
Because it's just like that just sounds like a way to get someone to work for 30 years. You know what I mean?
It definitely was, but it's also it was like a trade-off for them because I remember my I can't remember, but one of them finished working at like 63, and my grandmother died at 100.
So for 40 years they paid her bills.
They really did.
But then you had to wait till you were 60.
I'm not saying it. I'm just saying the trade-off for. What? The trade-off for a lot of people, right, was like, and that money came on time, right? And that is part of what people felt like, okay, I'm going to give you 30 years at this company, and then you're going to give me another 30 or whatever.
It's like selling your soul away.
Okay.
Well, you have to understand, I am of a certain age.
Absolutely. And y'all don't do that now. So it's
30, because that's 30, like, I think also time was different.
Well, they were starting working at 22.
But also time in regards to our awareness of how short life is. I feel like this generation, we were born with like school shootings and microwave energy and like everything is like time. I think our brains are just wired so differently. 30 years to us versus 30 years. 30 years for y'all is like, and like not y'all even specifically because you don't even work in the system anymore. So y'all is in like your parents' age and like your grandparents' age. Like 30 years, it's like okay, buckle down, lace those boots up, and do it.
Well, especially if you're say you're 25 and you just finished school, your age, and you get this opportunity. They're like, not only are we going to pay you, but we're going to give you all these other benefits. And I'm just saying, just think about it. We're going to give you health, dental, blah, 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 blah. We're going to give you a pension. We're going to give you this. And all I'm asking is that you go to somebody's school and teach because you love to teach. And so for a lot of people, that it seems to be a good trade-off. I'll teach and then you take care of me. You know, it's the same thing as a social security system. It's very much about that.
It's very much that, but I think also our generation is faced with mortality a lot. Because the first thing that came to me was, what if I die? And that is deep. Which is deep because I think we have an overexposure to...
We do.
Like, trauma and death and, like...
Yeah.
We have a lot... Social media has very many pros and cons because, of course, like... Let's say you don't even got no phone. You don't know everyone's dying. Like, somebody died, you might find out... You only know if they're died if you knew them. We be knowing people are dying that we don't.
News. There was the nightly news, but folks weren't watching the news.
But that's not everybody that dies, and that's
You're
not.
right.
You know what I mean? Like
You're
that's
right.
we have so much access and awareness to stuff that makes us realize, like, 30 years, I need to live my life now.
That is
so
interesting.
I never thought about it that way, but I'm like, my brain doesn't even conceptualize that. Like,
because you know what they told me when I was growing up, which was definitely you work and work and work, and then you enjoy your life when you retire.
Yes.
And I did kind of see my grandparents do that. They did a lot of traveling. They did a lot of places, but it was like
I mean,
but you work and work and work, and then you enjoy. And what I'm hearing, your generation, you're hilarious. Your generation is like,
you don't get to live until after you give them what they want. Like that's deep. But yeah, we're just different. I think we just
it's just
and
a different
time. It's different timing. It's different opportunities.
Yes,
it's different. Everything is actually really different in a short period of time, which I think makes the lineage lessons more powerful. Is that like even as I'm watching your life, you had to transition during your own lifetime from what you were taught to how you can live, because you're not. What, you just turned 60? Suddenly 60.
Yep.
So it's like technically your life would not have started until like 5 years from now, but you're traveling and doing all these other things, and then we're confused why you look younger than people your age. But it's like you've been consistently, in terms of like, I think some, like, you just have like a vibrance about you, right? And there's also a certain aspect of like awareness even to have these conversations, but that's because you're genuinely like, you're embracing the change as it's coming, and it's kind of like smacking you, but you're not being resistant to it. But then the blessings have been expansive in a different way. Yeah. Of course, as you know, y'all, I was like, Mom, quit your job or whatever. She was like, girl, what are you talking about? Which, of course, thinking back now, as you described your grandmother coming from Texas and assimilation, like, it all makes sense because, like, you're in the middle of like 2 generations. You have your kids like, Mom, what are you doing? You're stressed. And then you have the grandparents like, stress.
You don't even know stress. You don't know what stress is. You don't know what stress.
Like, what is stress? I live like, and so like that is like a
very, duality.
Oh my gosh, that has got to be crazy. I commend you. You're doing it.
Oh, okay. You know how you don't always feel like you're doing it. What I will say is there's a couple of things. Number one, you know, I have a faith that says we're gonna move, and you walk by faith and not by sight. So there was a lot of moves that I didn't know. I was just like, we're going to try this out. I think the other thing, though, is I knew I wasn't going to be in the classroom forever. When I walked in the classroom, I was like, this ain't going to last, Jesus. Also, I was teaching what I love. I was teaching music. You're teaching dance. So it's different from, like, doing the... I don't know, like, I wasn't teaching math, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we were touring every year, we were doing concerts, we had outgoing engagements. So it was more of a youth development program, but I mean, than actually teaching. So
that's hella real.
From there, I learned how to teach adults, and then that's when my first shift changed. I was like, college, teaching on a doctoral program, teaching adults at Sonoma State. All those things were like, there's something else that I could do that doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
So what I think is, my through line is I'm an educator. I grow people, but it didn't have to be in classroom structures. And that's where I think the shift was for me and can be for you. I was just able to take care of that at a much, much, much younger age. I'm also aware that we're on 50 minutes now, which is cray-cray.
I was thinking that was like the sun done shifted.
Right, because we're
like,
like,
now you're covering.
and now I'm like, how do I get in the
I'm
sun? Like, what's that about? Here we go, as we say goodbye. So every time we have one of these conversations, we think of another, because I didn't have even education on the list. But we've got to talk about that. We are recording this right before the November 5th special election here in California. And so by the time you see this, it will either have passed or not. But what I just wanted to say is I'm always going to exercise my right to vote as long as I still have that right. And I encourage people to do that. The other thing I'm going to say is right now we're going into a really, really hard time. And no matter where you are in the world, we just figured out SNAP benefits have been cut. That's where, as we're recording this, for people who have those resources, people are out of work. There's a lot going on. What I want to encourage you is nothing beats connection. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about when we get off of here is like, how are we going to sustain through the holidays? Without consumerism, right? Because folks don't have jobs or they are working, but they're working part-time. I encourage you to start new things with your families, right? It doesn't have to be the big tree, the big gifts, just because that's the way you used to do it, or that's the way it's always been done. Start a new tradition, something that's less around consumerism. For Mother's Day, I told my 4, don't buy me anything. Don't buy me another card. I got every Hallmark card that they've ever made. But I was like, make something, very creative for me. And it was amazing what they came up with. I encourage you to try some different things like that will bridge connection, but not have to deal with consumerism. And then the final thing that I just want to encourage is right now we need to be talking to our lineage about what's happening in the world today. A lot of the younger folks may not even understand what's up and why is this back. Right now, the government is closed. Folks are really, really scrambling for resources. And I think the younger folks may not, who was listening in your 12th grade government class? Nobody. So they don't even understand what these things are. They don't understand what Prop 50 is about. And they won't unless we have those conversations. So I'm encouraging everybody, connect. Get close to the people in your family. At the end of the day, that's all we really have. And also, let's talk about what's happening in our world today. The only way to plan for some of the things that's going on is if we have a conversation.
That's beautiful. I'm encouraging those to be open to listen, especially from the younger generation.
And the older generation, we need to be open to listen too.
That's really, I completely agree with everything you said.
Let's connect.
Yeah, connection. Ashe. On the next episode.
Of Lineage Lessons. Thanks, daughter.
Thanks, Mom. Love you.
Love you.